And we're live. Good morning. Oh, bad news. Good morning, mashed potatoes. Bad news. I'm sick. And geez, I am. It's not well. It's not looking good over here. Last week on Tuesday, I came down with like fever and chills and aches and a really gnarly cough. And I haven't left the house since. I've been home watching Breaking Bad and playing video games and laying down. So it's been a really dreadful week before Christmas. But hey, we're not going to start on a negative note. Life is great, and I'm on the mend. I'm feeling better. I was thinking about going to the gym or doing something this morning, but yeah, I'm still not feeling great, so I didn't go. I might try to go to yoga tomorrow. But this whole freaking time I've been thinking like it's been such a weird week. Last week or maybe the week before I sent an article to Mashed Potatoes, who got the coolest little avatar picture for himself. It's just a plate of mashed potatoes. I sent him an article from a self-help guru on the internet, Mark Manson, who was the author of The Subtle Art of Giving a Fuck, of Not Giving a Fuck, and the Hope is Fucked book. He posted on his blog that he is, after 15 years, moving out of the self-help world. And the article was saying that his life, the reason he got into self-help because is such a shit show, and he had to get his life together, and then he got it together, and then he spent a ton of time helping other people and made a lot of money doing it. And he So he said, yeah, the point of self-help is to get out of self-help, right? And we were texting a little bit about it, and I've thought a lot about that this week, because I haven't done anything. I haven't done anything for my body. I've been able to maintain a pretty good diet, except for lots of snacking late in the evening when I'm getting ready for bed, which is not good. Uh, I haven't done much in the way of exercise or I don't know, studying or meditating. I haven't done much. I went on a walk. I've gone on a couple walks, and I finished my book. I read my book while I was home. Um, but like when I was healthy, when I'm healthy and I'm going, didn't. I don't know if I realized just like the amount of stuff that I was doing, and not that everything that I've been doing has been super useful. It's just been a ton of stuff. Hour and a half exercising, 2 hours writing, 8 hours working, um, uh, 20 minutes meditating, the podcast, and then just ton of crap. And then I'd come home and yeah, then I was like, I only have like a couple hours to hang out before bed, before I go to bed at 8:30, so I can get up at 4:30 to do this all over again. But for the last week, I haven't done any of that. I've been playing video games and sucking cough drops and drinking water. Except I got coffee today, and it's delicious. Cheers. Good morning and cheers. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of. Oh, yeah, I was saying I haven't done anything in the last week, and I realized kind of like I was just thinking I was thinking on what Mark had said, and I was thinking of I keep bringing it up, and I want to read it again now because I don't know if I'm missing any of the points, pertinent points, but I want to reread Do Nothing because her book is, and it goes right along with this post that Mark Manson posted, his blog. There is it's not about, it is about, there's a part of it that is about continual growth, but there's a point that you reach in self-help where you're not really fixing, you're mostly maintaining. And I kind of think the same thing goes with exercise, and the same thing goes with because you can, unless you're like a world, well, yeah, like a world renowned athlete. Can you be like a world renowned self help guru? That's kind of what Manson is. I'm guessing, having only being kind of familiar with that space. The point is, it gets over. It can turn into overkill. And I was never unhappy. I loved it. I've been sad that I haven't been doing my normal stuff. But man, like yeah, what's the safe? How do you get after it, but not kill yourself? There's a there's a Rogan just posted a video on Instagram of a part of an interview with him and Goggins. And Goggins was saying, if you're going to come onto my social media, you're not going to ask me about rest days. You're not going to ask me about healing and recovering. You're not going to ask me about that because that's not what I'm doing. I'm after it. I'm getting after it every single day. It's like, stay hard. So I'm telling you, people like Goggins, people like Cameron Haynes, Jocko Willink, they take 0 days off. And Cameron Haynes says he's never missed a day of work in 20 years, even when he's sicker than a dog because he takes you take no days off. You go where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. But and then you got these self-help gurus talking about listening to your body, listening to your mental health, and that you don't need everything. in the whole world to be happy. That's not what life is all about. The point of life is, well, what is the point of life? What's the point of living? For Goggins and Haynes, it's to maximize your potential, to be the hardest workers. And then maybe for these other people, it's to be the smartest workers. It's to be to utilize your time the best in the most meaningful way. Not necessarily just kicking ass every second of the day. But I like both. I like to kick ass, and I like to take time to do things that I enjoy, that I love. I like both. I need both. Anyway, it's been a lonely week. Been a very lonely week. But I was getting ready for bed, and I thought maybe I should just call this one off so I can have a whole week of getting back into the groove of things, exercising, and just doing all my studying and writing again, so that my podcast is fresh. But hey, I couldn't miss this for the world, and I owe that to my girlfriend for encouraging me to show up anyway. So, happy to be here. 10-ish minutes in, and sorry that it's such a drag, but really, the book today kind of goes right into this train of thinking. It's pretty morbid from someone's point of view, from someone who doesn't study this field. We'll talk about it. But first, I gotta say, I got a couple people sending me text, and you know who you are, showing me their Spotify Wrapped podcast. I was their podcast guy with only like 800 minutes because that's all I have. But guess what? Thanks for listening. I hope that this is somewhat useful, beneficial, or entertaining. However you take it in a positive way, I hope I could just give you more of that. This is, again, the podcast. It's supposed to be a stimulating way for me to have conversation and explain my thoughts and to read these books and to stay accountable. But I'm glad that they are. If not uplifting or inspiring, entertaining, and if not entertaining, then just content to fill your ears. So thanks. We do it live Mondays at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch on Cadence Podcast. But Twitch is different. I keep forgetting. Twitch is my gamer tag, Alpha Seltzer. Should put that in the video. But Facebook and YouTube, that'll be the easiest way to find me. Cadence Podcast. Or you catch it after it's posted live. So we gotta let you know. Gotta let these motherfuckers know. It's okay to have a down mashed potatoes. It's okay to have a down week when you're sick. I don't have stats in Spotify Wrapped, but you know I'm your number one. If I'm your number one over Pardon Your Take, then I have one. I know I don't get sick very often either, so I'm not down and out. I'm hardly ever down and out. Like, I had to take work off. I had a few jobs last week that I couldn't take off, and I was so sick trying to figure them out, and I got a few of them done. But this week is super busy. Yeah, I feel behind on work. I feel behind on my writing. Feel behind on working out, on my books. You know what I'm not behind on, though, is Breaking Bad. I think we watched the entire 4th season yesterday. We got up and we finished season 3, and then we watched all of season 4. Kayla's sick, too. I got her sick. She was taking care of me for the first couple days, and then she came down with the same thing. It sucks, man. Might be bronchitis. She thinks it might be bronchitis. I have no idea. It's COVID for all I care. And I'm not going to get tested because that's not going to do anything for me because I got vaccinated because you told me to. You told me to get vaccinated. You told me to. And I'm still sick. So I don't care. I don't care about getting vaccinated. Fuck your vaccine. Wait, about your test, your COVID test. Fuck your COVID test. I'm still sick, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, I feel behind when I just get bummed when I'm sick. And we talked about this last week too. My mom tells me it's good to slow down. And it is good to live I thought about being sick and not doing anything for a whole week. Makes me think about being on vacation for a whole week. I'm not doing anything on vacation for an entire week. In fact, I probably am hurting my body over that week more than anything by relaxing and then eating everything that all the vacation has to offer. But I've been doing pretty good. I have been doing pretty good on my diet for the week. And by pretty good on my diet, meaning I haven't been just eating tons of junk food. I've been fasting. I've been fasting all, doing my intermittent fasting and athletic greens, liquid IV, lots of liquid IV, lots of water. Anyway, let's talk about this fucking book, huh? Who cares if I'm sick? Hey, shut up. No one cares. Let's get this podcast started. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about too. This book was just as long as any other book, 8.5 hours. But it was in the same format as the Art of Thinking Clearly book, where it was like 150 chapters and 150 2-ish minute chapters, and they were all just sentiments. So let's talk about this book for a second. All right. The book is called Letters from a Stoic by Seneca. Now, these books, I think I'm figuring these books out. So Seneca was let me tell you about Seneca. For several years of his turbulent life, in which Seneca was in which he was dogged by ill health, exile, and political danger, Seneca was the guiding hand of the Roman Empire. 4 BC to 65 AD. I think that's when he was born 4 BC. His inspired reasoning derived mainly from the Stoic principles, which had originally been developed some centuries earlier in Athens. This selection of Seneca's letters shows him upholding the austere ethical ideals of Stoicism. Oh, I might have to stop the freaking podcast to cough. There's phlegm. There's just phlegm that I can't get out all the way. It probably is bronchitis. I had bronchitis one time and I couldn't. So I'm Googling something while I'm talking, so I'm filling the air. It's gross, but you can't cough up what's in there all the time. It's hard. Okay. Lucius Seneca the Younger, usually known as Seneca, was a Roman Stoic philosopher, statesman, dramatist, and in one work, a satirist from the post-Augustan age of Latin literature. He was born in Hispania, raised in Rome, and trained in rhetoric and philosophy. You're so sick and it's grossing me out. I know, man. This is why I was going to take this week off. But I've been sick for a week. I'm done being sick for a week. I just want to move on. Now let me talk about Seneca. Okay. Yeah, these books about the Stoics and the yogis, these historical figures were confusing to me for a while because these are Seneca's words, but Seneca didn't write this book. So what I'm guessing, because it hasn't been laid out to me clearly, and I'm an idiot, is that Penguin Classics, who owns this book, compiled these letters and wrote the introduction. They wrote the whatever, the narration, and then they read his letters, and then Penguin Classic is who was commenting, because it's not like Letters from a Stoic by Seneca, narration or commentation by so and so. Anyway, why I'm saying that is because the first chapter is all about who Seneca was and what he accomplished and this and that, and it obviously wasn't written by Seneca. So, but it's important. This is important to note because, in the beginning, in the introduction, I wrote a history of Seneca's life. Yeah, they go through the whole history of Seneca's life. Penguin notes, Seneca may very well be history's most notable example of a man that failed to live up to his principles. All of the letters, and we'll talk about the letters in a second, were written later in his life in a series of communication with a guy named Lucilius. Was that his name? So, who did Seneca write letters to? It was to Lucilius, yep. And Lucilius, I think he was a leader in Rome at the time after Seneca left. 124 letters Seneca sent to his friend, then the procurator of Sicily, advising him how to become a better Stoic. So, yeah, it was, okay, so maybe it wasn't one of the leaders. What is a procurator? Sorry. This is a terrible start to this episode, but a procurator. Thanks, Google. An agent representing others in a court of law in countries retaining Roman civil law. Okay. So let's get to it. Seneca, he was a Roman dude, born at the same time as Jesus, and he lived his life, and in the introduction, he did some pretty awful things, and he did not live up to his Stoic standards in his adult life, but as a old person, he buckled down and wrote these letters and talked about how to become a Stoic. In fact, later in the book, one of the letters he wrote, he said to his friend that he says don't take hot baths because they're not natural. And he says, I know over my entire life I've taken hot baths, and I have not I've not taken in any of these principles until later in life. But he pretty much says better late than never, right? So he's not a notable example of these principles, but he is the father. He's the author of not the author, but he is. This is one of the foundational root texts to Stoicism. This, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, and whatever one by Epictetus. I don't know. I can't remember what that one's called. Those three. That's like the trinity of Stoicism. Okay, let's get started. Sorry, Jesus. And if you didn't listen to the Marcus Aurelius one, the reason I'm so interested in Stoicism is because it has stark comparisons to Buddhism, and what I'm so attracted to in both regards is the principle that either all life is meaningful or all life is not meaningful. Either all life has purpose or no life has purpose. And the point, let's see, the philosophy of Stoicism, the world and its people is a single great community, or Buddhists call that this they call it oneness, eventually nirvana, ruled by a supreme providence described as divine reason, creative reason, nature, spiritual purpose of the universe, destiny, personal God, or gods. So, okay, I'll read that one more time without interjecting. The world and its people is a single great community ruled by a supreme providence described as the divine reason, the creative reason, nature, spiritual purpose of the universe, destiny, personal God or gods, and must live according to their laws. So, that's Stoicism. Whatever deity or deity that you claim, that you believe in, they rule the universe and have established laws, and we must live according to their laws. It's so Stoicism doesn't it doesn't advocate for a belief, whether you believe in divine reason or creative reason or nature or God or destiny or spiritual purpose. You must live according to the laws. I made a note to say, find this part at the beginning about inborn reason, and it was really good. I mean, I could just read some of this. I should have found it beforehand. Man, this is what happens when this is what happens when I'm sick, man. I'm not on my game. 27 minutes in and we're still on the introduction. Come on. I think this is it, though, that I was talking about. Right. Living in hey, TNC, I'm just going to read it. Living in accordance with nature means not only questioning convention and training ourselves to do without all except the necessities, plain food, water, basic clothing, and shelter, but developing the inborn gift of reason, which marks us off as different from the animal world. We are meant to set free or perfect this rational element, this particle of the universal reason, the divine spark in our human makeup, so that it may campaign against and conquer pain, grief, superstition, and the fear of death. It will show us that there's nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Discipline the pleasures and the passions, and generally subordinate the body and emotions to the mind and soul. Jesus, I think that's beautiful. In this way, we shall arrive at the true end of man, happiness, through having attained the one and only good thing in life, the ideal or goal called arete in Greek, and in Latin, vitrus, for which the English word virtue is so unsatisfactory a translation. The summum bonum, or supreme ideal, is usually summarized in ancient philosophy as a combination of four qualities: wisdom, or moral insight, courage, self-control, and justice. It enables a man to be self-sufficient, immune to suffering, superior to the wounds and upsets of life. Even a slave thus armed can be called free, or indeed titled a king, since even a king cannot touch him. Yeah. Okay, so this is why I love philosophy. Back to in the first paragraph. We are meant to set free the rational element, this particle of this divine spark, that it may campaign against and conquer pain, grief, superstition, and the fear of death. It will show us that there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Discipline the pleasures and the passions, and generally subordinate the body and emotions to the mind and soul. So, I love Stoicism for that. So let's talk about the letters. I just took like the principle of each letter that I thought was meaningful to me, or that I thought was inspiring or insightful. And yeah, there were 120 something letters, and they didn't even read all 120 letters, but I did. So yeah, I probably got like 50 letters, a quote from each of them. So I'll just look through these real quick. In letter 2, he's writing to his friend. Yeah, something that he talks about all the time, that he mentions several times, is how traveling, even back in 0 AD, it's 60 AD, people were traveling to escape their woes. It's so funny to me. People 2,000 years ago were still just people, and they had houses and bills and kids and annoying spouses and annoying friends and also loving spouses and loving friends, but they also had dreams and desires to go places. They saved up money to go to to buy a carriage and to travel over to Europe and maybe into Russia. Like they just had the same ambitions that we do today. We just have planes now, and we have Delta, and we have the internet to book. We have Trivago. So they just saved up their coin to walk around to places that they wanted to go. It's funny to listen to these old books like this, because a lot of it's pretty much just the same thing as today. He says you can't travel to get rid of your problems, because when you travel, you're taking your number one problem with you, and that's yourself. You can't get rid of yourself. If you're traveling to get rid of yourself, or to escape whatever is bothering you, internally, all you're doing is taking those problems with you, taking your baggage with you. So, in letter 2, this is how he starts the book. If you want to deal with, if you want to handle internal turmoil, you have to face it. He also says, quote, "A cheerful poverty is an honorable state, but if it is cheerful, it is not poverty at all. It's not the one that has too little that is more, but the one that hackers off to more." A cheerful poverty is an honorable state, but if it is cheerful, it is not poverty at all. Epicurus said that. He quoted Epicurus. Yeah. Okay. That's letter 2. Letter 3, I took a quote. "Trusting everyone is as much a fault as trusting no one." Thank you. Letter 4, "Let our way of lives be not diametrically opposed to, but better than that of the mob." Live a central principle of Stoicism, live in accordance with nature. Letter 7, "Nothing is more wasteful than spending all your time at the show." Again, it's just, people want to be distracted and they want to be entertained. And people 100 years ago, 2,000 years ago, were spending all their time at the show because it was entertaining, and that was their only entertainment. They'd go see plays and whatever, and the Coliseum, because that was their distraction. All of our distractions are in our house now, but all they could do was go to the show. So he says, nothing is more wasteful than spending all of your time at the show. And I'll tell you what, I've spent the last 7 days at the show. I haven't done anything useful or productive, and I'm still not all the way better. And I couldn't be more grateful. We had that really crazy snowstorm last week. Right, that was right when I was coming down with what I had. I had the window open. I was laying on my couch, wrapped up in a blankie and shivering my little tail off. And I was looking out the window, watching the snow, looking at the snow, and I was I was taken back how grateful I am to have all of these comforts. All of the we have the roof first and foremost to protect us, but then all of the things inside, like the electricity, the plumbing, the heat, and even a couple times DoorDash to keep us so I don't have to leave the house, and I'm fed. Even I'm fed. And such a comfortable life we live, that I live, and I'm super fortunate, super grateful. So when he says there's nothing more wasteful than spending all your time at the show, and then I hear David Goggins talking about taking no days off, and not saying I'm sick, whatever, but uh, everyone still just wants distractions, and they still just want comforts. They want to get out of their the rat race trap, and they want to distract themselves with not think about their internal issues. They don't want to meditate on why they're depressed, or why such and such is happening to them, or how they ended up where they're at in their life with who they have in their life. All the things that make people anxious. So they distract themselves with things at the show. Part of Stoicism and mostly with Buddhism, is accepting the state of how things are, of how your life is, accepting it, and then doing something about that. Makes me think about Jesse in Breaking Bad, sitting in his druggy anonymous classes, and we just watched this episode, and he had just killed Gale. Hey, spoiler alert, if you've never watched Breaking Bad, hey, you're 7 years too late. 9 years too late. When he kills Gale and then goes back to the anonymous meeting, the 12-step program meetings, and he looks at that guy who has been so kind and helpful to him, and he says, I made you my bitch, and I'm here to sell all of you meth. Are you just going to accept that? And the guy says, no. Why did I bring that up? Oh, accepting. Yeah, you accept how things are. That was a dumb connection. The show is so good. All right, let's move on. Let's see. Letter 8, indulge in the body just so far to maintain good health. You don't need fancy, just effective. Letter 9, a wise man is content with himself. He handles loss with equanimity. If you wish to be loved, then love. Chrysippus said, the wise man lacks nothing, but needs a great number of things. The fool needs nothing, but lacks everything. Nothing to the wise man is a necessity. To be happy, you are content with what you have, like letter 2. Yeah. To be happy, you are content with what you have. Later on, I think in a couple of letters, we'll talk about. There's a really awesome quote about a thatch roof. That's a hard principle, even for me, still to grasp. Though, is to be content with what you have. Because a huge reason why I got started in. It started with my routine is to achieve a lot, right? And this is the dichotomy of working hard and doing nothing. Is how content are you supposed to be with what you have? How content should you be? How satisfied? And I think I shared the story about I got a letter while I was a missionary saying I had just gotten started and I was depressed already. And a letter that I got from someone said, never be satisfied. Always stay hungry and always get after it. Never be satisfied. And that's the same shit that I hear from Goggins and from Haynes and Jocko Willink and Rogan. And it's the opposite thing that what Seneca is saying. To be happy, you are content with what you have. And then, maybe those guys are saying, well, yeah, you are. I am content. I don't need more. I'm just working hard or whatever. I'm trying to find that the equilibrium because to what extent are you content with what you have or content with your capability, with your performance? To what extent are you content with your home or with your because just like this previous letter said, a cheerful poverty is an honorable state, but if it is cheerful, it is not poverty at all. If you're homeless and you're happy and you're still a happy person in your state of poverty, then it's not really poverty at all. You're actually thriving because you're happy, right? So then what's the motivation to work? What's your motivation to get out of poverty? You see the dilemma? To what extent are you working to overcome your not to overcome, but to improve your situation? I mean, how content are you supposed to be in your mental health or in your relationship? Oh. It seems like you have to choose which thought process you want to adopt. I don't know if you can marry the two. But I don't think I think you have to though. I think you have to. And you know this you were an excellent missionary and I know you worked really hard the entire time. And meaning I don't believe you took any like you didn't like baptize 15 or 20 people and then say, all right, I have 6 months left. And then, so I'm just going to take these last 6 months easy. Like I'm content. You kept working hard. And I think those people are happy because of their hard work. It's maybe applying that to a person's job. If you're working hard at your job, are you content with being a mediocre salesperson because it makes or pays the bills, and maybe it provides vacations and free time and whatever for you? You don't excel as in your position, but you do hard work, but you also balance it with contentment. And it definitely depends on your attitude. I don't like I do I'm probably way overthinking it. I'm probably so annoying talking about this, but the relationship it seems tricky to me, and I have such a hard mindset. Or let's see, I have I hyper focus, and I'm kind of a perfectionist. So how do you have both? I think that's what I'm trying to struggle, is to actually marry the two. Because I feel like you can't just work hard and then never be satisfied with the fruit of your labor. Like Rogan and Haynes and those guys they all have to be proud of what they've accomplished. But then they continue to work hard because they're ambitious, but they're content, right? I think there's an interesting relationship there. I think they both have to be, or I think they both can be implemented. Like, you're not just a homeless person and happy, or you can just be a happy homeless person, and then your life is fulfilled because you're happy, I guess. But ambitious people, if you choose to be ambitious, you have to be able to accept wins along the way and be content with that, and then be content with setbacks. I'm gonna keep going. I mean, this see what's going on in my head. Letter 12. Every day should be treated as its last, and one day it will be. Law to talk about death and dying. This is a dying man's book anyway. Mashed potatoes. It's hard to sum up in the chat. I think it's continual improvement, but also being happy where you're at. Like being proud of yourself for the work that you put in today, but think about ways to improve tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah. And that looks different for that's a good way to say it. And it looks different for everybody because not everyone is a ultra marathon runner. Cameron Haynes runs 20 miles every single day just to stay fresh. Goggins does the same. But some people, like I only spend an hour in the gym every day, and that's, but I could be doing more. Should I be doing more? I don't think that's the I don't think that's the point. Maybe that's what I'm trying to confuse. Like the super hyper athletes with what I'm able or capable of doing. It's a good way to say it. Letter 16. It is better to work on your current resolution than to make new noble ones. Let's see. Fortify your pertinacity until your will to do good becomes a disposition to good. Pertinacity means hold firmly to a course of action. I said, what good is philosophy if there is fate? A deity controlling all, or chance. Philosophy teaches you to be subject to God with cheerfulness, to fortune with defiance, how to allow God and how to bear what chance will subject you to. Quote, if you measure your riches to nature, you will never be poor. If you measure it to people's opinions, you will never be rich. Natural desires are limited. Desires derived from people's opinions are limitless. Ask yourself, does this desire have an end? Yeah. Yeah. Desires and possessions. Yeah. The point of life isn't to be the richest, unless you want to be the richest. Maybe that shouldn't be the source of your happiness, but that's what this is saying. If you measure your riches to nature, you will never be poor. If you measure your riches to other people's opinions, you will never be rich. Oh, deep. That one cuts deep. Natural desires are limited. Desires derived from people's opinions are limitless. Natural desires like food and sex are limited, but desires derived from people's opinions like having a bigger house or having nicer cars, those are limitless. Yeah. Control those. We're not trying to impress anybody. Letter 18. Submit yourself to occasional hardship to find deeper pleasure in your fortune. Misogi from The Comfort Crisis. It's the same principle. His example is to fast and eat less appetizing foods for a few days. Finding pleasure in bland foods brings greater pleasure in tasty foods. Or cold showers. Cold showers. You can live a happy life without your riches. But nobody wants to. I don't want to. I don't want to give up all of my comforts. But if I had to, and I've given up going on a mission and going to do summer sales, or just not having this shit before. I can be happy. I can be happy giving all of this up. If someone cleared my house out today, I can be happy. But I want all of this. I want this, my computer and my desk to do the podcast and to play games, my TVs to watch Breaking Bad, my music. I want it all. I don't want to give it up. That's a tough, but yeah, that's why meditation is so awesome. It's all introspective, to be content with what you have, and that nothing is permanent. Eventually, my shit will break, and then you have to go buy new shit. So, if you're happy, if you can learn to be happy without it, then having it is only a bonus. But relying on it for happiness, and then when it breaks or when it's removed, you become depressed. So, learn to be happy without your stuff. There you go. I feel good about that. A person who has learned how to die has liberated himself as a slave. Memento mori. Learned how to die. Yeah. Yup. Traveling and novelty will not resolve your worry. You must learn to deal with problems internally to rid yourself of their burden. You must be a confident and competent individual. And that is where everyday practice and grinding and reflection is so important. Part of the reason why I train every day, why I have been training every day is to be tough. Someone said in yoga early on, we suffer in the yoga studio so we don't suffer in the world. And not necessarily saying that yoga will train you for all of life's setbacks, but the struggle you encounter while doing yoga is definitely a struggle, and it's definitely suffering. And continually practicing and continually putting yourself in difficult situations or just doing hard things like that brings out a level of grittiness, and you are training yourself to be tough. So when life has its setbacks, you're ready for it. And that's why I didn't hit on it when I read that, because it is pretty much the whole end of the book. But memento mori, meditating on your death, rehearsing dying, is the same. It's barking up the same tree. Practicing dying prepares you for death. And they say dying might be the single most important thing a person does, because it's the only thing that you can only do once. Well, not the only thing, but it is. And after you die, you can't do anything else. So be gracious in death. And we'll talk about Seneca's death at the end. It is not a pretty picture. Anyway, traveling and novelty will not resolve your worry. Deal with your problems internally to rid yourself of their burden. That's letter 28. Letter 33. The wise man learns from ancient wisdoms and utters zone wisdom. Come on, Caden. Not only repeating their own wisdom. That's probably what I meant to say. Their own wisdom. So Zeno said, "What have you said? How long will you be a pupil?" This is me though. This is me right up. What useful shit am I saying? The whole point of the podcast is to regurgitate what these brilliant people are saying. So he's calling me out. A wise man learns from ancient wisdoms and utters your own wisdom, not only repeating the ancient wisdoms. But that's pretty much all I do is I reread what they fucking said. How do you come up with your own wisdom? Do I have to write letters? I do the podcast. But I'm also 25 and I'm 26 in just a few weeks. But I'm only 25. I got 25 years of life at least before I could be considered wise. I'm just trying to learn how to be wise. Let's go. That's letter 33. Letter 40, quality of speech and content is better than quantity. And that is a word for all of the TikTokers who are posting shit every day. Quality of speech and content is better than quantity. Praise a person not for their possessions, but for the things that cannot be taken away. Their work ethic, compassion, discipline. Letter 47, all men are equal, even slaves to their master. Treat yourself inferiors as you would have treat your inferiors as you would have your superiors treat you. Judge a man by their character. Their job or position are circumstantial and not reflective of a person's true nature. All people are slaves, either to their master or fear or pleasure. Hard to come up with, yeah, mashed potatoes. When you meditate and write, you come up with wisdom that's pertinent to you. Hard to come up with wisdom that's pertinent to everyone. That's true. What's also true is, uh, like I've said, any idea I've ever had or thought that I come up with that was original that I want to share has been written in a book, and it's probably written in a book 2,000 years ago. He's the first guy in the 27 books that I've read so far. He's the first one talking about how traveling won't solve your problems. And the 4-hour work week was all about how traveling will solve your problems. Now, how if you want to work 4 hours a week and go travel, your life will be better. That wasn't all the book was about, but that's wisdom that came from a guy 2,000 years ago. Yeah, it's easy. It is easier to come up with wisdoms for yourself, but is it wisdom considered wise or wisdom to everybody? Isn't that kind of the point of wisdom? Anyway, we're gonna keep going. I'm cranking through these. More than halfway from all of my notes. Let's see. Death is what precedes us all when we shut our. Oh, death is what precedes us as well as what will succeed us. Yeah, we don't just die once. The state we were in before we were born was considered death because we were not alive. Interesting thought. Letter 55. Possession of a friend should be in spirit. Again explains that vacations aren't relaxing if you aren't at peace with yourself. The harmful consequences of inactivity are dissipated by activity. Don't just discard your unhealthy cravings and vices for a happier, healthier life. Condemn them. The quote, the harmful consequences of inactivity are dissipated by activity. That's one reason why working hard all day or working hard every day is so useful. The harmful consequences of inactivity are dissipated by activity. And by good activity, not just by anything. You don't just do drugs to avoid being inactive. That's why, yeah. You get the point. And then a lot of the rest of this, I said, is about death. 63. His mind, when with friends, was with the thought that he would lose them. Then after they passed, he did not mourn their loss. He had dealt with the fear of losing them before he lost them. Quote, make the most of your friends, since we do not know how long we will have them. It is better to make good the loss of a friend than to cry over them. Yeah. Do that for your friends. Do that for your parents, for your siblings, your spouse, your kids. It is better to make good the loss of a friend than to cry over them. Make the most of friends, since we do not know how long we will have them. Either they'll die first or we'll die. And since there's a lot more people, other people than us, chances of someone else dying are probably greater. And I just came up with that. That's memento mori, man. It's important to contemplate the death. And you know what? I wrote about death in memento mori, and I'll share about that in a little bit. Letter 77. Seneca had a friend who counseled a comrade who was contemplating suicide. Their advice? There is nothing special about living. The slaves and animals also live and die. A wise man seeks to die in a noble way, one that is honorable and courageous. Every life, without exception, is cut short. What matters is not how long you live, but how well you live. This letter 77, pretty crazy to me because it he is advocating suicide, and which is such a backwards attitude to have in this day and age, I suppose, but just in our culture. Um, no one, well, yeah, we don't want to think about our loved ones dying. We don't want to lose our loved ones, and then we would talk. I think I talked about you. I don't want to spoil it, but I think about sometimes when I'm driving and I'm trying to remember this principle, memento mori. I think about how would I respond if mashed potatoes died, if I got in a car accident, or if my girlfriend died, or just like my roommate didn't wake up, like how would I respond? And it's a horrifying thought to have, to think about someone's death, or to get a call that my mom is dead, or that my dad is dead, or anybody, or that my siblings have died doing something crazy happened to them. Like the fucking roof caved in on them, and the whole house, like I lost my whole family. That's like a really sad thought to have. But it's a really critical one according to the Stoics, because when something shitty does happen, and shitty things happen, you're mentally and emotionally equipped to handle it. It's the only way to be ready for it, is to contemplate it. So sometimes I'm driving around or working and I have these thoughts and I'm thinking about this principle, and the feeling is so uneasy. It's so unsettling. And I shake my head and I like try to dodge the thought or the feeling, but then I remember, no, this is the point. The uncomfortable, the discomfort is the point. The discomfort thinking about the death of a loved one is the point. Being comfortable with discomfort is the point. Understanding that I will lose my grandparents sooner than later, and then my parents, and then my siblings and my friends, and there will be weird, crazy accidents that'll happen. I'll lose people will die too young or too soon, but everybody's gonna die. And if you don't think about it, if you don't talk about it or prepare for it introspectively, you'll never be ready for it. And it will only be an emotional mess. And a lot of people are dying every day. And we just don't think about it. We don't joke about it even. We kind of joke about it with our friends because it's dark humor and it's funny. We try to be funny, but I can't joke about death with my parents. I could try. I guess I could try a little harder, but that's not the point. And then he advocates for suicide, and there's nothing special about living, because even the animals and the slaves live. A wise man seeks death in a noble way, seeks to die in a noble way. Seneca killed himself later in his life. Again, we'll talk about it later. And it was not graceful. I'm giving you lots of spoilers. It was not graceful. So suicide, that's one whole different conversation to have. But thinking about death in general, or the chance of yourself dying, the chance of your loved ones dying before it happens, is critical to having peace and to avoid the fear of death, to avoid the fear of others dying, to overcome the fear, to be stronger than your fear, to be stronger than the discomfort. You have to embrace it. Just like you embrace exercising to become stronger, you embrace the discomforts of death before they happen. All right. That's a lot of what the rest of this book is about. Letter 78, you die not because you're sick, you die because you are alive. All power lies in our thinking. A man is as unhappy as he has convinced himself he is. Excuse me. Handle your hardship with courage. How can you have courage if the hardship is not difficult? This reminded me of the did you watch Vikings by the History Channel? They depict a ceremony called the the blood eagle. If you were sentenced to death, one way that they tested your valor is to see if you're worthy to go into Valhalla is by performing the blood eagle. And it's it I think from what I read afterwards, there's only one recorded incident of the blood eagle ceremony happening, because it's a horrific. If it's true, it's horrific. They tie you down, and you're being sentenced to death. So you're not technically like an honorable person. You get tied down, and then they cut open your back, break your ribs, and pull your lungs out and throw them over your shoulders. And if you scream in this process as the victim, then you don't get sent to Valhalla. You have to die gracefully. That's what this made me think of. Handle your hardship with courage. How can you have courage if the hardship is not difficult? I loved this letter. 78. A man is as unhappy as he has convinced himself he is. And then letter 83, I said, Stoics don't get drunk. Excuse me. Letter 88, I said he talks about land surveying. Hayden, you might want to read into this one. How can we lose everything and still be happy? It's a hypothetical question. Okay, thank you. Seneca asks himself, be content with what you have, because none of it is yours anyway. Letter 90, the gift of the gods is life. The gift of philosophy is to live well. Quote, nature suffices all that she asks from us. We have complicated our world through our ingenuity. This isn't bad, but we should stay true to our roots. Virtue comes through study. That's a separate note. Virtue comes through study. A lot of the book too, and I haven't talked as much about it, is that the right way for humans to live is the natural way. And what does that mean? What does it mean to live naturally? I think mostly it means to give and to take from the earth in ways that are natural. Because we're creatures of the earth anyway. We are the earth, and we are each other, and we should take care of ourselves, and we should take care of others. And by doing all of this, we're taking care of the earth. Today, we are in such a hyper consuming world, and we abuse the resources that are available to the detriment of ourselves and to the world. And it will be the death of humans, and there's no doubt about it. So, and to live naturally, I think this makes me think of a conversation I had with a vegan or a vegetarian, and their argument was, if we can make food in a lab, why should we kill any more animals? And I think you should ask the lion the same question. If we can make your food in a lab, why should you kill any more gazelle or zebra or alligators or whatever lions hunt? Humans were not always at the top of the totem pole of the food chain, but now we are. Now we kill our food and we eat it, and that's part of the reason why we have big brains and have become self-aware, is because of the nutrient dense food that comes from animal tissue. And nothing compares. No lab food compares to natural food. That's just one example of why living natural is so important, and why. And then another example is being on a correct sleep cycle, rising and falling with the sun. That's a natural way to get sleep, and to recover that our body needs to live otherwise is contrary to nature and is harmful to us. I'm making this up as we go. It suffices me to say that we have complicated our world through our ingenuity. This isn't bad, but we should stay true to our roots. This is letter 90. Only a few more. Letter 91, everything is created to be destroyed. Cities, people, everything is fragile. Nothing lasts forever. Quote, in the ashes, all men are equal. We are born unequal, and we die equal. That's beautiful, Seneca. 104. If you wish to rid yourself of your vices, don't spend time with people that support that behavior. Yeah, those are like the biggest points. 114, take care of your spirit. It's where your thoughts and words come from. Things that goad men into destroying other men. Hope, envy, hatred, fear, contempt. Cheers. That's the book. That's all my notes. Let me tell you how Seneca died. It wasn't clear to me. I was sick. I probably just missed the point, but he, I think he was being sentenced to death, or maybe to a trial or something. He's an old man at the time, 60s, and he didn't want to comply. So he's like, I'm just going to kill myself. And obviously he's an advocate for suicide. And his wife says, I will kill myself with you. And they say, all right. And so they distribute all of their possessions to their slaves and their friends and family. And they slit their wrists. And I don't know why. I don't know if it explained why, but they didn't die, neither of them. So Seneca cut his ankles and behind his knees. This is how they describe it in the book. Just to try to keep bleeding. And they say he laid there for hours in agony with his wife, and eventually summoned the slaves to take his wife into another room because he couldn't stand her cries. So they took her to another room, and he just sat there and bled, and then eventually stopped bleeding but never died. And so he's like, well, then he gave some oration of or some sermon while he was bleeding out that they read, but there was nothing I took down in there. And eventually they put him in a bathtub and put him in a hot bath and suffocated him. He had cut himself at least 6 times to bleed out and never bled out. And then his wife survived and lived for several years later. And I don't know why, but the standard method of execution in these days was poison administration. I would just take the poison or just have someone chop my head off. I don't know. What? The bleeding out thing seems so hardcore and unnecessary. So unnecessary. Today was not as it's not as ideal as I had hoped it'd be. I wish I was healthier, but you know what? I am grateful. Part of the light of being sick is knowing I take care of my body and I'll get better. I'm getting better. Whatever I've come down with is kicking my ass. But I am grateful that eventually I'll get over it, or eventually I'll die. Either this kills me or I get better. But in any case, as a Stoic, this book came at an interesting time while I've been feeling sick. As a Stoic, there's nothing I can do besides accepting things as they are. And I'm sick, and I can't perform to my fullest capacity, but I can try. And as long as as long as I make efforts to improve myself, even while I'm sick, I'll see benefit, see the reward from it, and then eventually I'll recover and be able to get back into my routine. Because the point is to beat inaction with action, right? That was Seneca. And then we can don't be content with with not having enough, but being content with the hard work that you're putting in. As long as it's providing for you and for your family, for yourself, whatever. If you're seeking improvement, that's what's important. Mark Manson's moving out of the self-improvement world because he is healthy, and that's the point. He's moving out of the self-help world because he's healthy, because he has established habits and behavior that promote his goodwill and his health. He's not constantly kicking his ass or trying to make major changes to his life. That's pretty much the point. Make good decisions every day to better yourself, to better those around you. Contemplate your death, contemplate the death of your loved ones, and that's the only way to conquer fear. Contemplate your death, contemplate the death of your loved ones, and you'll be prepared for unfortunate setbacks. And I am not going to sit here and advocate suicide with Seneca yet, because I don't see the principle. I don't see that one yet. I don't see that one yet. Anyway, that's Letters from a Stoic by Seneca. I definitely recommend this one. I liked this one maybe a little bit more than Meditations. I didn't get as much meat from Meditations, I feel like. Marcus Aurelius kind of writing to himself, and maybe it was this idea of Stoicism was so new to me that I missed a lot of the meat, but this one was good. And then eventually I get to the Epictetus novel and we'll hit the whole trifecta. Hopefully by next week I'm feeling better. I should be here. Christmas is on Saturday. So yeah, Monday's the 27th. I should have a book down. Before Christmas Eve, and we'll be here doing the podcast because we don't miss Mondays. We don't miss Mondays. That's the fucking reason why we do the podcast Monday morning, because we don't miss. We show up, we're accountable, even if we feel like shit. All right, I'm done talking about myself being sick. Thanks for tuning in. As always, if you're here, few viewers in the chat coming and going, or in the feed rather. Mashed potatoes, number one, as always. We do this live on Monday mornings at 8 a.m. We start at 8. You come at any time that you'd like. Come participate in the chat. My mom, she keeps telling me she's going to show up, but hey, Brooke, you're very quiet. You're very quiet, Brooke. It's live on Spotify and Apple Podcast Tuesday, 8 a.m. I've been really good about getting it out early. But hey, I do this for myself. I do this for me. I do this for my own betterment. And hopefully it is of use to you. And if it's not, I would love to hear feedback how I could do better. But this shit is to help me keep my brain fresh, keep my body fresh. Mashed potatoes. Brooke, where TF you at? I know. She's going to be mad again. So yeah. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. I hope it's a peaceful holiday for everyone listening. Holidays are either the best of times or the worst of times for some people. I've been fortunate enough to go my whole life and not have a difficult holiday. People lose loved ones all the time. They lose loved ones or they go through major life crises. And around the holidays. And sometimes the holidays are a terrible reminder of how hard life is. And I am growing up and becoming more mature and aware of this. And I sympathize with those people. I hope that you can find peace in this time for what it's worth. And my overall take, I stand by the principle of meditating on meditating on your hardships, and coming to terms with them. And of course, I'm speaking from a privileged position. I understand. I don't have, but eventually that will change. Eventually, I'll lose people. I just haven't had any crazy life events or major life setbacks. Like, I haven't lost a limb or lost a close loved one, but I will. And it'll change the holidays. It'll change life. And for some people, the holidays are only a bitter, sad reminder of those shitty experiences. So we take life as it comes, because everything dies. Everything comes to an end. You may never. I don't. Whatever. I'm not sure. Wow, this got really somber really quick. But the holidays are here. Try to make them peaceful. Try to make them special for the ones that are still around. What did he say earlier about your friends? Let's see if I can find it one more time. We let's see. Well, here's this. There is nothing special about living. The slaves and animals also live and die. A wise man seeks to die in a noble way, one that is honorable and courageous. Every life, without exception, is cut short. What matters is not how long you live, but how well you live. This is a very sad way to end the pod. Holidays are here and life is horrible. I know, man. Wow. Why did I take it this way? I don't know. I'm just thinking about how hard life really is for some people. Life is not that hard for me, man. Life is really hard for some people. And I'm trying to sympathize with them. And listening to me talk about a book that's all about how just be happy with your lot in life and accept death as it comes, and think about death and think about your loved ones dying and this and that and this and that. And I have not experienced most of this. I just meditate on it. I know I'm coming from a place of privilege, but this is just the nature of life. And the holidays are they're a time for intimacy, but they're not pleasant for everybody. I guess I'm just trying to sympathize. I don't want to just pretend like everything's hunky-dory, because everything is not hunky-dory. I mean, I'm sick. Kayla's sick. Her whole family's sick. My whole family's sick right now. My mom's family all has this cold bronchitis thing going around right now. I mean, it would be really easy for my grandparents to get sick and to die. They're old, and they're getting old. And that would be a really sad, tragic thing. And even more sad and tragic for my parents, for my mom and her siblings. But like that, it's going to happen. So fuck the holidays. That's where I'm going to leave this. Fuck the holidays. Fuck the holidays. I'm wrapping this shit up. I'm losing my mind. I'm so tired. It's so sick. I'm done. Thanks for showing up, though. Happy holidays, bitches. We'll see you next week.
読み直しているだけがで読み